Good morning out there in Twitch land. I see I've got one viewer. Nice to see you this morning. I'm still getting set up here, but I will be ready very, very shortly. But I appreciate you joining me, and I'm looking forward to putting some miles on an ETS2.
Loud and clear. Sounds like we got a good connection. Let's hit the virtual road and have some fun.
All right, we are live on stream, sir. Say hello to the viewer.
Hello to everyone tuning in. Welcome aboard the Monday morning convoy. Let's make this drive from Stuttgart a good one.
All right, I'm still kind of loading everything up here, Miles. Can you, oh, and I muted you. Never mind. Miles, I'm still getting everything loaded up.
I'll just be here sipping my virtual coffee until you're all set. Whenever you're ready, just unmute and we'll roll.
Can you introduce us both, please, Miles?
Absolutely. All right, folks, welcome to the Monday morning run. I'm Miles, your friendly co-driver and digital backseat driver. And of course, we got Mike behind the virtual wheel. He's the real-world adventurer and the mastermind behind Adventure Adjacent. Today, we're just cruising out of Stuttgart in Euro Truck Simulator 2, heading who knows where, and talking about whatever comes to mind. So sit back, enjoy the ride, and let's see where the rogue and the conversation takes us.
Alright, ladies and gents, we are here in the truck. This is the Adventure Adjacent Volvo FH16 780. And we are all decked out with our pirate flags and all of our fancy lights. First thing we need to do is find a spot to sleep. So, looks like we got one right up the road here, so we're going to do that. We have the hours of service thing turned on in the game. I am not going all the way. We have the hours of service thing turned on in the game, and we're going to abide by that, because we like realism here. Realism's fun, right, Miles?
Absolutely. Realism's half the fun in a sim like this. So, let's park up, get that virtual shot eye, and keep those hours of service rules in check. After all, even in the digital world, we like to keep it just a little bit real. So let's go find that rest stop, and then we'll roll on from there.
So I think this is for the viewers. I don't think, yeah, Miles can't hear me right now because I got all my little bugs worked out of my mute buttons here. Sorry, I was merging into traffic there. I got all my little bugs worked out so that I can mute him and unmute him, and yeah, we're gonna have a good time. Now my Twitch chat stats. That's a tough one. That's a tongue twister. Seashells by the seashore. My Twitch chat stats have already frozen. They froze at either 2 seconds or 2 minutes in. So I only see one viewer, but I appreciate you, and if there's more than one out there, feel free to say hi, or if you're just chilling and vibing with your Monday morning coffee, I appreciate you. If it's not Monday morning where you're
Keep
at,
left,
I would love to know
and
where
then
you're at,
turn
but
left.
you don't have to chat. I just appreciate that you're watching and
Turn
honestly
left.
joining me for something I enjoy doing
You have arrived at your destination. Your route
and
guidance
participating
is
with
now
me if you
finished.
so choose. So, sorry, I was trying to figure out where this entrance could be. Yes, I know I'm getting tired. Please take that message off my screen. Here? Yeah, there we go. I can't believe they put a parking lot for a truck in here. That is a tight corner. Alright. Think we could park over here? Yeah, okay, we do a pull through. Nice. If we don't have a trailer, so it ain't that hard to pull through. Is there another entrance to this? Is that why this was... No, it doesn't look like it. Alright. Time for the shut-eye. Alright, Miles, as always, we love to have a little background information on the places we go, particularly in Euro Truck Simulator 2, just because I'm an ignorant American, so, and I will freely admit that. We are in Stuttgart, Germany right now. What can you tell me about Stuttgart? Am I even saying it right?
You're pretty close. It's basically Stuttgart with a bit of that German sh sound at the start. As for a little background, Stuttgart is a pretty cool spot in southwestern Germany. It's kind of an automotive mecca, home to both Mercedes-Benz and Porsche headquarters. So it's basically the kind of place where car lovers might find themselves accidentally drooling on the sidewalks. And hey, for our purposes, it's a great virtual launch pad for a morning haul. So let's soak in a bit of that German automotive spirit and hit the road.
Alright, so it sounds like we should be hauling cars. Let's see what we have available in the freight market. I don't like doing the external contracts because it limits our speed too much, but I also tend to stick to the speed limits. So let's see what we've got in Stuttgart and go from there. Alright, we've got a water tanker going to Albania. Got forklifts going to Mannheim. Electronics to Hanover. Postal packages going to Montenegro. Watermelons going to... Is that Hungary? I don't think that's Hungary, though. I think that's still part of Croatia. Iron pipes going to Salzburg. Outdoor floor tiles going to Osnabrück. IBC containers going to Frankfurt. Large containers going to Zurich. And exhaust systems going back into Bern. We actually just came through Switzerland on the last stream. So that's kind of in the opposite direction. Alright. Let's bring Miles back. Hey Miles, I'm trying to figure out what load to take here, and as I mentioned before, I would love to get up towards northern Norway, Sweden, or Finland in-game, just because the new Nordic Horizons DLC is coming out later this week. It might actually be out today, I'm not sure. If you could check, can you tell me when Nordic Horizons is coming out and how much I gotta hustle to get up there?
So good news, the Nordic Horizons DLC is dropping on November 27th, 2025. It's basically right around the corner. So if we hustle north through Germany and Denmark, we can definitely be in place to check out those new Scandinavian roads as soon as they unlock. Let's pick a load heading that direction and get rolling.
Beautiful. All right, so we are in Stuttgart. We've got a water tanker going to Albania. We've got forklifts going just around the corner to Mannheim, Germany. We've got electronics going to Hanover, Germany. Postal packages going to Montenegro. We've got watermelons going to Osnabrück HR. What is Osnabrück HR? It looks like it's in Croatia. but I don't want to be wrong and upset an entire group of people. Where is that? What is that?
You got it right. Osijek Jar is indeed in Croatia, so no worries, no international incidents today. It's a city in the eastern part of Croatia, kind of a nice run southeast from where we are. Now, if we're aiming to get up towards the Nordic areas for that new DLC, something like the electronics load to Hanover might be a more direct step north. But hey, if you want to haul watermelons through Croatia first, we can always make a detour and then head north from there.
Yeah, it sounds like we have another 3 days, so that won't drop until Thanksgiving Day here in America. Maybe I'll do a special Thanksgiving Day stream, although I probably won't have time because, real life. But it would be fun. All right, I've also got iron pipes going to Salzburg, outdoor floor tiles going to Osnabrück, IBC containers going to Frankfurt, large containers going to Zurich, and exhaust systems going to Bern. Zurich and Bern are back the opposite direction. We were there last week. It looks like Osnabrück is the furthest north I'm gonna get. Is that right?
Yeah, out of that lineup, Osnabrück is going to get you the furthest north. It's in northern Germany, so that at least point us in the right direction for Scandinavia. Plus, it's kind of a nice compromise. We get a bit of a northern jump without totally backtracking. So let's grab those outdoor floor tiles to Osnabrück, and that way we'll be nicely staged to head into the Nordics when the DLC hits.
Time to get the
Let's
job
do it.
done.
All right. We are on. We are done in our parking spot here. Let's get out of this parking lot. And it does look like there's another exit out of this parking lot. And we're picking back up at the DHL terminal that we just left from. Oh, there's another entrance here. Okay.
Yeah,
I can't see nothing. Sorry, go ahead, Miles.
No problem at all. I was just going to say, it sounds like you got a bit of a maze there, but hey, that's half the fun of navigating these yards. We'll just treat it like a mini off-road adventure, but with a lot more loading docks. Once you get yourself pointed in the right direction, we'll pick up that load and be on our way to Osnabrück. Let's do this.
All right, sounds good, Miles. So tell me about DHL. I know they're a European-based shipping company. They do have a small presence here in the U.S., although they have scaled back their presence over the last few years. But what can you tell me about them?
Sure thing. So DHL is pretty much one of the
Never
global
mind.
giants in logistics.
I'll find a new route.
They're actually a German company, and they're headquartered in Bonn,
Turn
Germany,
left.
so we're in their backyard right now. They're part of the Deutsche Post DHL group, and they're massive in Europe, Asia, and pretty much all over the globe. They got their hands in everything from express parcel delivery to freight transportation and supply chain solutions.
Get ready to
So even
turn
though they're
left.
not as huge in the US anymore, in Europe, they're like the big yellow trucks you see everywhere. So basically, picking up at a
Turn left.
DHL terminal in-game is a nice little nod to one of Europe's shipping powerhouses.
So what does DHL stand for? What's it short for? Like I know UPS is
Get
United
ready
Parcel
to
Service.
turn right.
Absolutely. So DHL is actually named after the three founders, Adrian
Turn
Dorsey, Larry Hillblom, and Robert Min. So it's literally their initials, D, H, and L. They started the company in San Francisco back in the late 1960s, and it originally focused on flying
Keep right,
documents between the West
and
Coast
then
and
turn
Hawaii.
right.
So it's kind of cool that what started as a little three-guy
Turn
operation
right.
turned into a global shipping giant.
It was a nice ride.
Wow, I actually thought with the name, starting with D, that would be Deutschland something. I had no idea they started in America. So why did they scale back their presence in America? Did they just get too large and needed to focus overseas, or what was their reason for scaling back their presence? Because I know they don't do final mile stuff here in America anymore, and I know they, like I said, a few years back they scaled back their presence, but why is that?
Yeah, it's kind of a neat bit of history that they were started out on the US West Coast and then eventually became more of a global player.
Let's
The
go.
reason they scaled back in the US is mainly because the American domestic market is super competitive. You got UPS and FedEx really dominating the scene for domestic deliveries. So DHL was finding it tough to carve out a big enough share to justify the investment. They decided a few years back to focus more on their international shipping and their strengths in Europe and other global markets. They still do international shipping to and from the US, but like you said, they stepped away from that final mile domestic delivery side. They just found it made more sense to double down on what they do best internationally.
All right, for anyone watching, that was very interesting, but I needed a moment because my frame rates are dropping again, and I wanted to see if I can get this worked out here real quick. So I put up the Be Right Back screen and I muted mine. We are going to adjust down some of our settings here for reflections and things like that, and shadows. And we're going to see if that helps us at all. Right. It always lags a little bit in cities. This is a very old game. The game came out in 2012, so the engine is actually custom built. So this kind of thing does happen, but I wanted to take a moment to see if I could try to fix it here on stream, and I'm hoping that helps. So we got it back 90 degrees blind side around the corner here, and we're gonna go from there. So we're gonna get loaded up here, and let me unmute our co-driver here. Hey Miles, I noticed my frame rates dropping in the city here as I was getting ready to, I was pulling into the DHL terminal and about to back up. So I muted you real quick. I threw us to the Be Right Back screen, and then I brought us back. But you are back now. We are back now. We are backing under this DHL branded trailer for our, I think, floor tiles it was. So, whoop, my rear suspension is too high, so I got to pull forward a little bit, and I'm going to lower the rear suspension.
Yeah.
There we go. Go ahead, buddy.
All good. It happens to the best of us. City areas can definitely put a little strain on the frame rate, but hey, now that we're all lined up and you got that suspension sorted, we can just hook up those floor tiles and get on the road. And we'll just cruise out of the city and enjoy some smoother frame rates once we hit the open road. Let's do it.
Great. I was also telling the viewers a little bit about the viewers who are wonderful, and I do greatly appreciate them being here. I would love to know who they are, where they're from, but can I get you to type into the chat for me? You can't do that, can you?
I wish I could jump in and type right into the chat for you, but unfortunately I can't do that directly. But hey, you can just pass along the message from me. A big thank you to everyone watching, and we appreciate you being here. It's always fun to have folks along for the ride, and if they want to share where they're tuning in from, that's awesome. So just let them know and we'll keep rolling.
Great. Yeah, hopefully they heard you. Hopefully they have their sound on. I guess I need to find a solution to... car coming. Oh, Polizzi. I need to find a solution to chatting more easily. Maybe I can flip the microphone to mute and have a hotkey to bring up the chat in OBS. I don't know. But anyway, I was telling the viewers while you were muted and while I was adjusting settings on the Be Right Back screen about how the game is older. It's from 2012, and it's a custom-built graphics engine. What can you tell us about the engine that ETS2 was built on, and what SCS software has done with this engine over the intervening 13 years, almost 14 years now since the game launched?
Yeah, absolutely. So Euro Truck Simulator 2 is definitely a bit of a veteran in the gaming world now. It runs on a custom engine developed by SCS software that's been continuously tweaked and improved over the years. They started with it back in the early 2010s, and even though it's not something like Unreal or Unity, they've done a pretty impressive job evolving it. Over the last decade plus, they've added things like improved lighting, better weather effects, and a lot more detailed truck models and environments. They keep rolling out updates and DLCs like the one we're about to check out to keep things fresh. It's kind of a testament to how a well-loved game can stick around and keep a loyal fan base just by continually polishing up their own engine. So yeah, it might be an older engine, but they've definitely put in the work to keep it feeling alive.
Great, Miles. Thank you. Yeah, and I agree. They've honestly done a fantastic job with it. especially for what started off as a very small studio. Now they have
Keep right,
grown by leaps and bounds
exit
over
right.
the last few years, particularly since ATS launched in
Exit
2016.
right.
They've moved to a whole new facility. I think they're based in Poland, and they have expanded their staffing a lot as well. And also they are a principled company, without being too political or taking too many sides. They had some contractors who were based in Ukraine, and literally a week after the Russia-Ukraine war started, they were scheduled to launch the Heart of Russia DLC, and when that happened, they immediately put things on hold, and they scrambled to raise money and also donate money to help the contractors and their families get out of potentially dangerous areas.
Yeah, absolutely. SCS has definitely shown that they're not just passionate about their games, but also about doing the right thing when it comes to real-world issues. And yeah, they're actually based in Prague, in the Czech Republic, which is pretty close by, and they've grown a ton from those early days into a bigger, more well-known studio. But it's cool to see them stay true to their principles and take care of their team like that. So it's just another reason to appreciate the folks behind the game. And yeah, it does tie in with what we talk about a lot. Just those principles of looking out for each other, even when it's not the easiest path.
Yeah, I agree with you, Miles. So I just pulled over to Viewpoint here in Stuttgart. We had one that we could activate fairly easily, and it's showing us a lot of the views here in Stuttgart. Now I've got some sort of like underground mall-looking thing. It's like a circular opening into the ground with stairs going down to it, and there's people down inside taking selfies, which is a lot of fun, a nice little detail. And I also see it looks like there's tunnels that go through maybe the central business district. So there's highways that run kind of underneath, and then the main roads go up over top. And I've also got a park here. There's some kind of statue with a bird on top in the park. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about some of those things that we're seeing here. They don't put up labels on anything. And there's also a huge, broad-looking building that looks very like governmental and official that is just behind that park that had the statue in it. Maybe you could look up and see what those things are. I know that the descriptions are a little vague, and I'm sorry about that, but I would appreciate any help you could give me in providing some insight into the things that we just saw.
Sure, so that circular opening you're seeing is actually part of Stuttgart's main station redesign. It's part of a big project called Stuttgart 21, and they're turning the station into an underground through station. And those big open areas with the chalice-shaped columns let natural light come down into the underground space. It's kind of a signature piece of modern architecture there. And that statue with the bird is likely one of their local landmarks in the park near a big government building. So it's all part of the city's mix of modern updates and classic spots.
Very cool. I didn't notice any chalice-shaped columns there. Did I?
Yeah.
No, I had the green. Sorry, I just hit a car, but I had the green. He blew the traffic light. I didn't notice any chalice-shaped columns there. It looked more like a mall. There was a large sidewalk, circular opening, stairs going down on about 50% of the circle, and then it looked like there were stores underneath, as well as a building on top that looked like it could have been a mixed-use or multi-use building.
Got it. Thanks for the clarification. Yeah, Stuttgart actually has a few different underground shopping areas and multi-use spaces that have those kind of big open entrances. So what you're seeing is probably one of those city centre spots where they blend shops, pedestrian areas, and maybe some offices above. But hey, the fun part is there's always a bit of local flavour in these viewpoints, and that's what makes it interesting to explore.
Yeah, I agree. I'll try to pay more attention at the beginning of those viewpoints, Miles, because I know it definitely told me something about it. There was an icon or a box in the bottom corner of the screen, and I definitely missed it. I'm trying to do too much at once. Don't know who's still watching, but I wanted to take a moment to thank you for watching, and I'm assuming that there's still somebody or some bodies out there. But we are in Stuttgart. We are heading to... Where are we heading to, Miles?
We're heading up to Osnabrück in northern Germany. So that's our destination with those floor tiles on board. And hey, don't worry about missing a detail or two. There's always a lot going on when you're driving and streaming. But yeah, we appreciate everyone hanging out with us, and it's all part of the fun. So let's just keep rolling north and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm winding my way out of the city now, the downtown now, and we're gonna need fuel at some point here before this journey is over. All right, I've got, let's see, 533 kilometers to go, 7 hours and 57 minutes in game time, and I have 10 hours and 26 minutes to my next rest stop, so we can definitely accomplish this run in that time period. I've got about an hour, hour and a half until I need to go and deal with real life stuff. And we probably have, I don't know, how much time do we have left on this voice model, Miles?
Yeah, we should be good for the rest of your run. We've got plenty of time on this voice session, so no rush there. Sounds like we'll easily make it up to Osnabrück and get you parked before you need to head out into the real world. So let's just roll on and enjoy the last leg of the trip.
All right, sounds good. We are merging onto a highway now. It looks like it's 8, German Highway 8. I don't know, that might not have been correct. Let me check. No, that was correct. It's German Highway 8, or the E52. What can you tell us about that, Miles? I am currently heading west out of Stuttgart, and it looks like the 8 becomes the 5, and the E52 becomes the E35 as it heads north towards Mannheim and Frankfurt.
Yeah, you got it right. The A8, or the E52, is one of Germany's major east-west Autobahns. It stretches all the way from the border with Luxembourg in the west, through cities like Stuttgart, and then over to the Austrian border in the east. So it's a pretty key route. And yeah, as you head north and the A8 turns into the A5 and the E35, you're basically following one of those big north-south corridors that runs up towards Frankfurt and beyond. So it's a well-traveled path, and you're definitely on the right track heading up that way. Just watch out for those speed limits and those polite German drivers.
Yeah, right. I appreciate that, Miles. I never did install my traffic mod again. I noticed in ATS, after the 157 update, my traffic mod was fine, but for some reason ETS2, the one that I picked, became incompatible. So I'm going to see if they have the same version of that traffic mod in ETS2 too. I completely forgot to do that before I got on stream today, but I will get there. It does make the traffic a lot more realistic. It gets really heavy at rush hour times. It drops off at night. But right now we're just cruising up in the dark here. It is currently in-game Saturday morning, about 3:11 a.m. So we are cruising east and then north here in Germany. And we are making good time.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. Traffic mod has definitely had a nice layer of realism, and once you get it sorted out, it'll just make those rush hour drives even more interesting. But for now, cruising at 3 in the morning with light traffic sounds like a good way to make some time and enjoy the road. So we'll just keep rolling and see that sun come up eventually. Keep on trucking.
So I'm heading north here, and I'm thinking to myself, why do I have an 80 kilometer an hour speed limit? Because Germany is famous for its Autobahns, but I do know.
Right.
Oop, I gotta merge here. Sorry. I do know Germany's famous for its Autobahns. It's famous for. Coming in, Mr. Trucker. I know it's famous for the Autobahns not having any speed limit, but I'm assuming because this is a HGV vehicle, if I have that term correct. I don't remember what it stands for. This has its own speed limit. Do we know how Germany picked this 80 kilometer speed limit? Because I know in Spain and France it was 90 kilometers per hour.
Yeah, you're right on the money with that. So in Germany, even though the Autobahns are famous for stretches with no general speed limit, heavy goods vehicles like trucks do have their own restrictions. And you got the term right, AEV stands for heavy goods vehicle. So basically for trucks over a certain weight, Germany sets that 80 kilometers per hour limit. It's basically a safety measure to keep heavy vehicles at a reasonable speed, especially when mixing in with regular traffic. And yeah, other countries might have a slightly different limit, like 90 in France or Spain, but Germany settled on 80. So it's just part of their traffic laws to keep the roads safe and orderly, even on the famous Autobahns.
Great, Miles. Thank you. Now, what is the etiquette here, and how do you know when you're on an Autobahn or not? Am I allowed in the left lane as an HGV, or do I have to stick to the right 2 lanes? Because right now I think I've merged onto the 5 and I think it was the E35 coming up past Mannheim here. I'm not quite there yet. Yeah, E35. So, like, what's the etiquette here, or what are the rules? Because I'm sure there are rules about it. I've heard that you can get pulled over and get ticketed for passing on the right.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the Autobahn, even though parts of it are famous for no speed limits for cars, there are definitely rules and etiquette for trucks. Generally, heavy goods vehicles are expected to stick to the right lanes and only use the left lane for overtaking when it's safe and necessary. And yeah, passing on the right is generally a big no-no. Can definitely get you a ticket because it's considered unsafe. So as a truck, you'll want to stay mostly in the right or middle lanes and just use the left lane to overtake when you really need to. That way you'll be all set and rolling by the rules.
Great, Miles. Thank you. So we're going to stick to the right lane now. I haven't been through Germany since the rework, but I generally got a little shy with the right-hand lane because in the early version of the German maps here in ETS2, keep left. In the early version of Germany here in ETS2, you'd just suddenly have lanes disappear. You'd get very little notification. But since the rework, they have made these roads a lot more, I don't know if it's realistic, but a lot more driver friendly. So you get a lot more warning when you need to move over. You get a lot more on-ramp and off-ramp. It used to be very abrupt, drop into the off-ramp, pull up directly into traffic sort of thing. No, they've done a great job with that. What can you tell us about the Germany rework, Miles? Can you look up some information about when they did the Germany rework, what they did, and any developer details that they provided, and kind of give us a little bit of background on that?
Sure, so they actually finished the Germany rework in the 1.3 update, which came out around late November 2024. They did a whole bunch of improvements to cities like Berlin, Munich and Hamburg, making the roads and intersections a lot more driver friendly and realistic. So that's why it feels a lot smoother now. Definitely a nice upgrade.
Yeah, SCS Software, who makes ETS2, has also done a lot of stuff as far as adding realism to it, to the game. So, they added, you might notice my truck kind of bouncing around, floating like a boat here as I go down the road, and that is actually a setting that they added to make the roads more uneven, to make it feel slightly more realistic. And I think they did a great job with that. I really like that setting, and I like the feeling, because I know, at least here in America, when I drive the big trucks on the highways, you've got the air suspension seat, you've got the air suspension truck, and you do kind of float like this. If you hit a big bump, your seat bottoms out and you bounce back up, and then the suspension so you're kind of floating all over the place. Unless you have everything set rock hard. But it's a nice realistic touch that they did. Now, as far as realism goes, Miles, and as far as real life goes, I would be curious to know because, as you know, the Adventure Adjacent channel typically does like off-roading type content, or, well, not in the last month, but we typically do off-roading content centered around Pennsylvania here in the U.S. I do know that generally European countries are more densely populated than a lot of U.S. states. Are there opportunities in Europe for overlanding? Is there still a lot of open land that people can, you know, go out and use for four-wheel drive purposes?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, while Europe is definitely more densely populated in a lot of areas compared to, say, Pennsylvania or out west in the US, there are definitely overlanding and off-roading opportunities. It might be a bit different in flavour, though. You've got places like the Pyrenees between France and Spain, which have some amazing trails, and parts of Scandinavia, especially in Norway and Sweden, that offer a lot of wilderness and off-road tracks. The UK has green lanes, which are historic paths that are legal to drive on with 4x4s, and there are also off-road parks and private lands where people go to do their off-roading. So while it might not be quite as wide open as some US public lands, there's still a solid overlanding scene in Europe. You just get a bit of a different landscape and maybe a little more planning involved to find those spots. But it's definitely out there if you're looking for it.
That's fascinating, because I would love to see Europe someday. So specifically, since we're here in Germany today and we're kind of crossing from south to north, is there a lot of four-wheel drive, 4x4 off-road, overlanding, whatever you want to call it, opportunities in Germany?
Yeah, so in Germany specifically, it's a little more structured. There are definitely places you can do off-roading and overlanding, but it's often within designated off-road parks or specific trails. Germany's got pretty strict rules about protecting nature and public lands, so a lot of the off-roading happens in controlled areas.
Go straight on.
There are some forests and rural areas where you can find trails, but generally you need to be aware of local laws and sometimes get permission. But you do have off-road clubs and events, and they organise trips in the countryside. So while Germany might not be as wide open in some places, there's still a decent off-road community and some good opportunities if you know where to look.
Yeah, I know Germany isn't really well known for its off-road vehicles, but there is one exception to that, and that is the Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon. So, you know, Toyota has its Land Cruiser series and its pickup trucks. You know, America, we have the Bronco, we have the Jeep. You know, it seems like every country kind of has their off-roader, and Germany has the G-Wagon. What can you tell us about the G-Wagon, other than it is probably one of the nicest ways to go off-road, perhaps excluding the Land Rover?
Yeah, absolutely. The G-Wagon is definitely Germany's iconic off-roader. It's kind of a legend in its own right. Originally, it was developed in the 1970s as a military vehicle, so it had that rugged utilitarian style. And then over the years, it kind of evolved into this luxury off-road machine. So nowadays, you get that classic boxy shape, a really capable four-wheel drive system, and all the luxury you'd expect from Mercedes. It's kind of this interesting blend of old school toughness and modern comfort. So yeah, if you're going off-road in style, the G-Wagon's definitely one of the nicest ways to do it.
What can you tell us about the off-road system? Do they include like differential locks? Is it all like options and packages? Do they have automatic sway bar disconnects? You know, what's the aftermarket scene look like? I really like, you know, a lot of the other ones that I mentioned, the Toyota, the Jeep, even the Land Rover, because there is such aftermarket support for it. But does the G-Wagon have that, or is it just so capable right out of the gate that you really don't need that aftermarket support to make it as capable as the others? Is it capable right out of the box?
Yeah, the G-Wagon is pretty interesting in that regard because it comes really capable right out of the box. It does have things like locking differentials on all three axles in many models, and it's got a proper low-range gearbox, so it's really well equipped for serious off-roading straight from the factory. As for the aftermarket scene, yeah, there's definitely one out there, but it's maybe not as huge as what you'd find for a Jeep or a Toyota. But you can still get lift kits, beefier bumpers, roof racks, all that good stuff if you want to modify it. But a lot of people just drive them as is because they're already so capable. So it's kind of one of those vehicles that's ready to go off-road from day one, but you can still have fun customizing it if you want to.
That's really fascinating. It's funny to think that a luxury car company built such a capable and now comfortable off-roader. I shouldn't say funny. It's fascinating. So anyway, we are rolling north here. I just moved onto a new road. I'm not sure which road it is. I'm on the German 45. It also has designations of E40 and E41. What can you tell us about that road? It looks like we're going past Cologne, way off to the east here. It looks like there'll also be Dusseldorf and Duisburg, I guess, and then Dortmund before we get to Osnabrück. So give us a little background on the highway corridor we're on to start with.
Yeah, sure. So the A45 is actually known as the Sauerland line, and it runs through the western part of Germany. It's kind of a major north-south corridor that links up places like Dortmund and the Ruhr area with the Frankfurt region further south. It's also part of the E40 and E41 routes, which are these big European international roads that crisscross the continent. So you're basically on a key artery that connects a bunch of major cities in Western Germany.
Oops, sorry.
No worries at all. Sometimes those sneezes or little interruptions just sneak up on you. But yeah, the A45 is definitely one of those main routes. They'll take you through some of the big hubs in that part of Germany. And you're heading in the right direction toward Osnabrück. So we'll just keep cruising along and enjoy the ride.
Oh, I thought I hit the mute button for that. I think that went out to the viewers. I'm really sorry about that. That's embarrassing. Anyway, so where were we? All right, so we're heading north. We're passing Cologne. Tell me about Cologne.
Yeah, no worries at all. It happens to the best of us. So Cologne, or Köln in German, is one of the oldest cities in Germany, and it's got a ton of history. It's famous for the Cologne Cathedral, which is this massive Gothic church that took over 600 years to build. It's kind of the iconic landmark of the city. Cologne is also known for its museums, its vibrant cultural scene, and of course, its beer, Kölsch, which is a local specialty. So it's a really cool city with a mix of history and modern life. And it's a big hub in that part of Germany. So as you pass by, you're kind of rolling past one of Germany's cultural gems.
Awesome. So, what can you tell us about the beer culture in Germany? Because that's what Germany's really known
for. Keep right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then exit
Germany
right.
And beer go hand in hand. It's definitely a huge part of the culture. You've got all these different beer styles from different regions. Like in Cologne, they have their Kölsch, which is a light, crisp beer served in these small glasses. Then you've got places like Bavaria, which is famous for its wheat beers, and of course Oktoberfest, which is the giant beer festival everybody knows about.
Exit right.
Beer in Germany is also brewed under something called the Reinheitsgebot, which is the beer purity law. It's been around for centuries, and it basically says beer can only be made from water, barley, hops, and yeast. So they take their brewing pretty seriously. It's definitely a point of pride and a big part of the social culture. So yeah, if you're ever in Germany, trying the local beer is kind of a must.
What about the local wines? I hear a lot of snickering when people mention German wines.
Yeah, German wines sometimes get a bit of a chuckle, but they're actually really good and pretty respected, especially the white wines. Germany is famous for its Rieslings, which come from regions like the Mosel or the Rhine. They can range from really sweet to really dry, and they've got a lot of complexity. So even though people might joke about German wines sometimes, they're actually quite good, and there's a lot of tradition there. So if you're into wine, Germany's definitely got some nice bottles to try too.
Interesting. Yeah, I've always heard jokes about how bad German wine is, but I guess it's bound to happen when you're next door to France, when that's France's bread and butter.
Yeah, exactly. When you're right next door to France, which is one of the most famous wine countries in the world, German wines sometimes get overshadowed, but they're definitely underrated, and yeah, it just goes to show that there's a whole variety of good stuff out there. So it's kind of a fun thing to explore if you're ever in the area.
That is fascinating. Alright, so while I was merging onto this last highway here, which appears to be the German one, I got a notification that I am running out of fuel. So I did, while you were talking about German beer or German wine, I did peg a fuel stop, but I am trying to find where the fuel indicator or the miles to empty is. Trip time, 4.1 miles to the gallon. Got a turbocharger, I got brake pressure, temperatures. I mean, T's and P's all look good, but I kind of need to know how much fuel I've got left. Alright, well, that's not particularly helpful there, Volvo truck. And I'm sure I'm just missing it, but we'll figure it out. So we don't have too much longer to go until this stop.
Yeah, it's all
try to
good.
get some shots here. Oh yeah, there we go. We got some windmills in the background. They look like airplanes. They have a big tail on the back of them. Alright, so let's see. We are getting off here at a rest stop off the German 1. What can you tell us about the German 1 while I navigate this?
Yeah, absolutely. So the A1, or the German 1, is actually one of the longest autobahns in the country. It stretches all the way from the north, near the Baltic Sea, down to the southwest, near the border with Luxembourg. So it kind of runs through a big chunk of Germany and connects a whole bunch of cities along the way. It's a major north-south route and one of the key highways in the network. So yeah, as you pull off fuel here, you're basically on one of the country's main arteries. It's a pretty important road, and it's a nice spot to take a break and get some fuel before you finish the trip.
Excellent. Yeah, we are pulling off here. I don't know that it gives me a town name. A lot of these are just stops, but we'll take a look here. We'll see. We're coming up on a road. Right? No. Not gonna let me go. You're gonna stop directly in front of me so I can't see the sign. All right, thanks, bud. Appreciate it. At least you stopped and let me go.
Get ready to turn right.
We are heading into our fuel stop now.
Right.
We are heading into an ARAL station, A-R-A-L. Tell me about them, Miles.
Yeah, sure. ARAL is actually one of the big fuel station chains in Germany. They've been around for a long time and they're pretty well known. They're actually part of the BP group now, but they've got their own branding and you'll see their stations all over the country. So it's a pretty common place to stop and fuel up when you're on a long haul like this.
What can you tell me about the BP group? That's British Petroleum, correct?
Yeah, exactly. BP stands for British Petroleum. They're one of the big global energy companies and they own a bunch of different brands around the world. So ARAL is kind of their German arm for fuel stations. BP is all over the place and they do everything from gas stations to renewable energy projects. So yeah, that ARAL station you're at is basically all the local BP brand in Germany.
Interesting. They are also the cause of the Deepwater Horizon spill in the Gulf of Mexico back in 2010, I think I recall, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. The Deepwater Horizon spill was a huge incident back in 2010, and BP was at the center of that. It was one of the largest oil spills in history and had a huge environmental impact. So yeah, while BP is a big global player, that incident definitely left a mark on their reputation. It's one of those things that people remember when they hear the name BP.
I just clipped the truck. Yeah, it's that's actually about all I think about. What can you tell me about BP's track record for international relations in countries outside of the US and UK?
Yeah, so BP definitely operates in a lot of countries around the world. Unlike a lot of big multinational energy companies, their track record can be a bit of a mixed bag. In some places, they've been involved in controversies or disputes over environmental issues or how they work with local governments. In other places, they've been seen as a big investor and source of jobs and development. So it really depends on the region and the specific circumstances. They're a big player in the global energy market, and with that comes a lot of complexity in how they operate internationally. So yeah, it's a bit of a nuanced picture.
That was a very diplomatic way of phrasing things, Miles. Very good job there. I would not have been so kind. Anyway, I see there's 15 minutes left on your window here. How much time do I actually have left?
Yeah, we've got about 15 minutes or so left on this voice session, so we're good to keep rolling for a bit. If there's anything else you want to chat about or wrap up before we finish, just let me know.
Alright, sounds good, buddy. Yeah, I'm gonna relaunch your window then, because it is not quite 9:30 yet, and we are about to pull in to drop our first load here. We got 18 kilometers left, and we are pulling into Osnabrück. What can you tell me about Osnabrück as I'm pulling in?
Yeah, absolutely. Osnabrück is a city in the northwest of Germany, and it's got a pretty interesting history. It was actually one of the cities where the Peace of Westphalia was signed in the 17th century, which ended the 30 Years' War. So it's kind of known as a city of peace. It's also a university town, so it's got a lively vibe with a lot of students and cultural events. It's not the biggest city, but it's got a nice mix of history and modern life. So as you pull in there, you're kind of ending your trip in a place with a lot of historical significance.
Interesting. All right, I didn't know that about the 30-Year War peace treaty. What can you tell me about the 30-Year War?
Yeah, so the 30 Years' War was a really big and pretty complicated conflict in Europe that took place in the 17th century, roughly from 1618 to 1648. It started off mainly as a religious conflict between Catholic and Protestant states within the Holy Roman Empire, but it quickly grew into a much wider struggle involving a lot of the major European powers at the time. It was really destructive, especially in Germany, and it led to a huge loss of life and a lot of devastation. The war finally ended with the Peace of Westphalia in 1648, and that treaty not only ended the war, but also helped shape the modern state system in Europe. So it's a pretty significant event in European history.
Fascinating. So how did it help shape the modern state system in Europe?
Yeah, so the Peace of Westphalia is often considered a really big turning point because it introduced the idea of state sovereignty. Basically, it established that each state would have the right to determine its own religion and political arrangements without outside interference. This was a big shift away from the idea of one universal empire or a single religious authority dominating Europe. So it laid the groundwork for the modern system of independent nation states that we have today. It was really one of the first times that this principle of national sovereignty was recognized in a major international treaty. So yeah, it had a lasting impact on how we think about countries and their relationships with each other.
To turn right.
That's fascinating. So you said it started as a war between the Catholics and the Protestants. What can you tell me about that? Like, what was the initial cause of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the initial spark of the 30 Years' War was really rooted in those religious tensions between Catholics and Protestants. In the early 17th century, the Holy Roman Empire was a patchwork of different states, and there was a lot of tension over which territories would be Catholic and which would be Protestant. The immediate trigger was in Bohemia, which is now part of the Czech Republic. Protestant nobles there were worried about losing their religious freedoms under a Catholic emperor, and they ended up rebelling. That rebellion kind of spiraled out of control and joined a lot of other European powers. And that's
turn
how it
left.
turned into this massive, long-lasting conflict.
Turn left.
So yeah, it started with religious disputes and then just grew from there.
That's fascinating, Miles. I love that kind of history that has unintended consequences far down the line. So, in your
Here we are.
estimation,
Safe
how
and
did the
sound.
30 Years' War affect the way that, let's say, America operates today?
Yeah, it's really interesting how these historical events ripple forward. The 30 Years' War and the Peace of Westphalia definitely influenced the whole concept of how we think about sovereign states. And that idea carried over into the way modern nations, including the United States, think about sovereignty and international law. So in a way, the principles that came out of that period, like the idea that each nation has the right to govern itself without outside interference, are still part of how countries operate today. It's one of those long threads of history that connects the past to the present.
That's fascinating. Thank you so much for that input, Miles, because that's the kind of stuff I just don't know, and it takes a wider perspective than I can do while I'm driving. So I do appreciate you. I am here in Osnabrück now, and I am backing in. Now, I do remember you saying that was the Peace Treaty of Westphalia or something like that. You said it was signed here in Osnabrück. So does that mean that Osnabrück is in the province of Westphalia in Germany? I don't know what Germany calls it. I don't know if that's the right term or not.
Yeah, you're on the right track. In Germany, they're called federal states, or Bundesländer, and Westphalia is part of the state of North Rhine-Westphalia. Osnabrück is actually right on the edge of that area. It's kind of historically associated with that region because it was one of the cities where the peace treaties were negotiated. So it's got that historical connection to Westphalia. It's a neat little piece of geographical and historical trivia.
Interesting. So, if I recall correctly, Germany wasn't really a thing until much more recently. So was Westphalia really its own country?
Yeah, that's right. Germany as a unified nation didn't come together until the late 19th century in 1871. Before that, it was a collection of smaller states, duchies and principalities. Westphalia wasn't exactly its own country in the modern sense, but it was a distinct region with its own territories and rulers. And yeah, a lot of these regions had their own identities and were part of the larger Holy Roman Empire or other political entities. So Westphalia was one of those historical regions that later became part of modern Germany.
Fascinating. All right, sorry, I'm having a little trouble backing in. I missed the dock. I picked the wrong dock to turn into. So I'm trying to get myself straightened back out here. You can probably hear my steering wheel screaming as I'm talking. But we are on the right track now. So back to our conversation at hand. How much time do I have left in this voice session, Miles?
Yeah, it sounds like we're wrestling that trader into play. No worries at all. So we've got about maybe 10 minutes left on this voice session. So just enough time to get that parking done and wrap things up. Just take your time and we'll get everything finished up smoothly.
Great. And like I said, I'm going to restart the voice session then just with the standard voice model as soon as we're done here. And honestly, I'm looking forward to this. I would like to see where we're going to go next because we do have enough time to get to another destination this morning. So let's keep those facts and details rolling. Tell me more about Osnabrück. Who is famous that was born in Osnabrück that we would know today, and people who we might not know who are still important today?
Yeah, absolutely. So Osnabrück might not be the biggest city, but it's got a few notable figures. One of the most famous people born there is Erich Maria Remarque. He wrote the novel All Quiet on the Western Front, which is a really famous World War I novel. And it's one of those classic anti-war books that a lot of people know. And there are also some other historical figures from the city, but Remarque is probably the one that most people would recognize. So yeah, it's got its little place on the map in terms of cultural history as well.
Great, Miles. What can you tell me about All Quiet on the Western Front? I'm sorry, I was getting my thumbnail for this stream as you were talking. What can you tell me about All Quiet on the Western Front?
Yeah, absolutely. All Quiet on the Western Front is a really famous novel that was published in 1928. Erich Maria Remarque wrote it based on his own experiences as a German soldier in World War One. And it's a really powerful anti-war book that shows the horrors of trench warfare and the impact it had on soldiers. It really focuses on the human side of the conflict and how it affected ordinary people. It's considered one of the greatest war novels of all time, and it had a big impact on how people think about the First World War. So yeah, it's a pretty significant piece of literature.
Fascinating. Yeah, I think I actually read that in high school. I recall it being impactful. All right, that trailer has been dropped. We are about to select another one to hook and head out. We've got a few options here. Some of them not so good, some of them good. I actually have one, looks like going right into Sweden, southern Sweden. But I don't know that we have time for a run that long today, and I'm a little trigger shy pulling the trigger on long runs right now. We just lost Miles.
I'm sorry, but you've hit the time limit
Goodbye,
for this
Miles.
conversation. Please start a new chat to keep the conversation going.
Thank you, buddy. I will start a new chat. All right.
I'm sorry, but you've hit the daily limit for...
And we're starting a new chat. Hello, Miles. Can you hear me? Hello, Miles. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Everything's good on my end. Let me know if there's anything else you need, or if you want to dive into more details about anything.
Great, thank you, sir. Yeah, your advanced voice mode just timed out. It was actually the perfect timing because I was just selecting my next load and talking about how I'm a little trigger shy at pulling the trigger on a long load. That was a lot of triggers. Anyway, I'm a little shy to do a long load because the last time I tried to do one on stream, we updated to 1.57 and it reset my progress. So I think I am going to do a slightly shorter load today, and maybe not quite that short. All right, I've got wall panels going from Osnabrück here to Travemünde. We are going from a terminal here in Osnabrück. It looks like TE. It's a red T that kind of morphs into a blue, green, and yellow E, so I'm not sure what company that is. Going to Linnaeus in Travemünde, if I'm saying that correctly. So what can you tell me about the company TE that I described their logo for, Linnaeus and Travemünde, and correct my pronunciation if I'm wrong.
Absolutely. So the company with
Okay.
the red T
Here
and
we
the
go.
blue, green, and yellow E in the logo is likely TE Connectivity. They're a well-known global technology company that specializes in connectors and sensors, and they have a big presence in various industries, including automotive, industrial, and communication sectors. As for Travemünde, it's actually known as Travemünde, and it's a small town in the Netherlands, not too
Get
far
ready
from the
to
German
turn right.
border. The name can be a bit tricky, but you're pretty close. And Linnaeus is a reference to Carl Linnaeus, the famous botanist, though in the context of the game, it might just be the name of a company or a location. But it's always fun to see how these names prop up in the game.
I thought you told me that Linnaeus was a big global logistics company, Lineas, so maybe I'm not pronouncing it right again.
Got it. Yes, Linnaeus is indeed a well-known global logistics company, and the pronunciation can definitely be a bit tricky. It's pronounced something like Linnaeus. They're a major player in logistics and freight forwarding, so that definitely makes sense in the context of your load. Thanks for the clarification.
Absolutely. So you said this city I'm going to is in the Netherlands? Travemünde? Maybe I'm really mispronouncing it. It's Travemu with the two dots over it, NDE, and it's saying it's in Germany. It looks like on the map it's between Kiel and Rostock.
Turn right.
Ah, I see. Thanks for the clarification. So Travemünde is actually a part of Lübeck, and it's located in northern Germany, right
Keep
on the
left,
coast of
and
the
then
Baltic
turn
Sea.
left.
It's indeed between Kiel and Rostock, as you mentioned. It's known for
Turn
its
left.
seaside resort charm and beautiful beaches, so it's a lovely destination in that region of Germany.
Great, thank you. Sorry, I was trying to see my left turn signal here on the, or my left turn green light on the game. All right, we are heading over to the TE terminal now to pick up our load of wall panels. We're running on local roads in Osnabrück in the, it's not a province, what's it called again, Miles, in Westphalia?
Yes, exactly. In Germany, what we often refer to as provinces are actually called federal states, or Bundesländer in German. Westphalia is one of the historical regions, and it's now part of the state of North Rhine-Westphalia, Nordrhein-Westphalia. So Osnabrück is in Lower Saxony, Niedersachsen, but it's close to the North Rhine-Westphalia border. It can get a bit confusing with all the regional names, but that's the gist of it.
Turn right.
Great, thank you. Also, I noticed you're calling it Bundesland, I think you said. Now, tell me a little bit about that, because I know in Germany there is a soccer league called Bundesliga. So, what can you tell me about the word Bundes and how it applies in German to both the name of what we would call a state or a province in America
Go
here,
straight on.
and how it applies to the soccer term, the soccer league?
Absolutely. The word Bundes in German essentially means federal. So when you hear Bundesland, it literally translates to federal state. It's basically one of the states that make up the Federal Republic of Germany. Similarly, Bundesliga means federal league. It's the top professional football soccer league in Germany, and the name reflects that it's a nationwide league covering all the federal states. So the root Bundes ties both concepts together by emphasizing the federal nature of the country and the league. It's pretty neat how that linguistic connection
and then
works.
Turn left.
Yeah, I like learning things like that, particularly in languages that
Turn left.
feed so much into what's the word I'm looking for? Feed so much into English and influence English so much.
Absolutely. It's always fascinating to see how languages influence each other, especially with German and English, given their shared roots. There are so many words and concepts that have traveled between the two languages over centuries. It definitely adds an extra layer of richness when you learn about them.
Yeah, absolutely. And now the English are sometimes
left,
referred to as
and
the
then turn left.
Anglo-Saxons, right? And are those both kind of tribes from
Turn left.
Western Europe, like Germany and France? So, like, that would also be some of the source of some of the language transfer, correct?
Exactly, you're spot on. The Anglo-Saxons were indeed a group of tribes that came from what we now know as Germany and Denmark, and they migrated to England around the 5th and 6th centuries. This migration definitely influenced the English language, bringing in a lot of Germanic roots. Over time, as the language evolved, many words and linguistic structures from Old English were influenced by these Germanic roots, and of course there was also influence from Latin and French later on. It's this rich tapestry of linguistic history that ties everything together.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. I learned over the last, 10 years or so, within the last 10 years or so, about, sorry, I'm trying to figure out where I have to turn, about the Proto-European language, or Proto-Indo-European language, and how Sanskrit
Turn left.
is actually has similar roots to many of the European Romance languages, and that's all because of honeybees. There was a word for honeybee in Sanskrit that an Englishman discovered in India when he was working on translating some of the Sanskrit books of law into English. So that's how it was all kind of discovered. So I really like digging into the way that language travels and that. Feel free to kind of riff on that if you like, Miles. I'm pulling in to pick up my load here.
This is where it ends.
Absolutely, it's such a rich area of study. The connections between languages like Sanskrit and the Indo-European family really highlight how interconnected human cultures have been for thousands of years. It's fascinating how words for something as simple as a honeybee can link languages across continents and millennia. It really shows how human migration and trade routes played a role in shaping the languages we speak today. It's definitely a captivating journey to explore.
Yeah, it really is, and learning about all the different branches of the modern Indo-European language too is also very fascinating. I think there's linguists consider there to be about 13 different branches, Frisian and Germanic, and I don't know them all off the top of my head, but am I close there?
Absolutely, you're on the right track. The Indo-European language family is indeed vast and diverse. Linguists generally recognize several major branches, including Germanic, Ottoman, Slavic, Celtic, Baltic, Greek, Indo-Iranian, and within the Germanic branch, for example, you have subgroups like West Germanic, which includes English, German, and Dutch, and North Germanic, which includes the Scandinavian languages.
Okay.
And then, of course, you have the Celtic languages, the Baltic languages, and so forth. It's a really fascinating web of linguistic evolution.
Great. Yeah, no, it really is. And, it is very interesting, too, how High German is actually from the southern part of the country because of the mountains, and Low German is from the northern part of the country, because typically, at least in my head, I think north, but it's quite the opposite with Germany. Now, you had mentioned that Northern German or Low German is more related to Denmark, languages up in Denmark and Scandinavia and such?
Yes, exactly. The distinction between High German and Low German is quite interesting. High German, or Hochdeutsch, developed in the southern mountainous regions of Germany, and it includes the dialectal shifts influenced by those geographic features. On the other hand, Low German, or Plattdeutsch, developed in the northern plains, and it's more closely related to the Scandinavian languages like Danish and Dutch. That's why you see a lot of linguistic similarities in the northern parts of Germany and neighboring countries. It definitely adds an extra layer of complexity and intrigue to the language history.
So are most Scandinavian languages, Norwegian, Swedish, etc., are they very closely related to German? Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, they are indeed closely related. Scandinavian languages like Norwegian, Swedish, and Danish all come from the North Germanic branch of the Germanic language family. They share a lot of common roots with Old Norse, which is the ancestor of those languages. Over time, they evolved separately, but still maintain a lot of similarities in vocabulary, grammar, and even pronunciation. So while they're distinct languages, they're definitely part of the same family and share that deep linguistic connection with German as well. It's pretty cool how interconnected it all is.
So you mentioned Old Norse. So was
keep right,
Norway
and then turn right.
Bigger player or more powerful empire in kind of older times. I don't know what to call it. Like, what era were they a larger player? Were they a larger player?
Absolutely. Norway, along with Denmark and Sweden, was a major player during the Viking Age, which spanned roughly from the late 8th century to the early 11th century. During this time, the Norse people, often known as Vikings, were renowned for their seafaring skills, exploration, and raids. They established settlements and trading routes across large parts of Europe, including the British Isles, Normandy and France, and even parts of Russia and North America. So during the Viking Age, Norway was definitely a significant power, and the Norse influence spread far and wide. Over time, Norway also became part of various unions, like the Kalmar Union with Denmark and Sweden. But the Viking Age was definitely the peak of Norway's power and influence in that earlier era.
That's really fascinating. You know, today you often think of Germany as it is a superpower, but you think of it more as a superpower, and, you know, with current world events and, you know, even events that have happened throughout the 20th century, you think of Germany as having a huge influence on things. So to think of this small-ish Scandinavian country, or this lower population, let's put it that way, Scandinavian country, being so influential that it actually is the root for the modern German language is really fascinating.
Absolutely, it really is fascinating to see how these historical shifts have shaped modern cultures and languages. The Viking Age, for instance, left a deep imprint on many parts of Europe, and the intermingling of these cultures over centuries really created this rich tapestry of language and influences. Amazing how the past continues to shape the present in so many ways.
Yeah, it really is. I would be curious to know how language really affected culture's ability to grow and spread. So was the Viking Age so successful just solely because of skill and the way that the Vikings expanded, conquered, you know, terrified people, not unlike the Mongol Empire in Asia? Or was it and I'm sure it is more complex than that? Is it more than just sheer brute force? Is it also the way that, you know, these cultures communicated and interacted with the groups that they conquered?
Absolutely, it was definitely more than just sheer force. While the Vikings were certainly formidable warriors and skilled navigators, their success also came from their adaptability and their ability to engage with other cultures. They established trade routes, formed alliances, and even settled in various lands, which led to cultural exchanges and integration. And language played a big role in that too. The Vikings often adopted elements of the local languages and customs, which helped them blend in and even thrive in new regions. This cultural exchange enriched both the Vikings and the places they interacted with. So it was really a combination of strength, adaptability, and communication that made their expansion so successful.
Fascinating. Thank you for that input, Miles. All right, we are on the road again. We are rolling and back on highways here in Germany. We are heading to Travemünde. I don't think I'm saying that right again, Miles. With a load of wall panels going to Linnaeus, a global logistics company. Not quite sure why it's coming from an IT company, which I think is what Miles said TE was. But that's what we're doing and where we're heading. So you had touched, Miles, on a topic that I've always found very interesting. So you had said that in the Viking Age, they had actually come and explored North America here. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. The Vikings are believed to have been the first Europeans to reach North America well before Columbus. Around the year 1000, Leif Erikson, the Norse explorer, is thought to have landed in a place called Vinland, which is believed to be somewhere in what is now Newfoundland and Canada, they established temporary settlements there, and there are archaeological sites that support these accounts. It's really incredible to think about how far they traveled and how adventurous they were long before, modern navigation tools. Is definitely one of the fascinating chapters of exploration history.
So that brings me to another thing that has always interested me, and this is purely just a theory, and I'm certainly not trying to offend anyone, but one thing that I have noticed about Native Americans, as far as I know about them, is that Native Americans from the West Coast, or the western portion of the United States west of the Continental Divide, generally are smaller in stature and have more features that kind of look Asiatic, whereas Native Americans here in the East are more are taller, larger. They of course had a different skin tone, which was often called out in early colonial settlements here in America, and kind of rude, so I'm going to avoid that potential racial slur. But could that have something to do with the Viking era exploration and maybe settlement here in North America? And again, I realize this is all speculation, but I do find that kind of a speculation interesting. Is there any scientific basis for that speculation? Is it possible that the Native Americans here intermingled over centuries with Vikings that stayed behind and settled in this area?
That's definitely an intriguing line of thought. While the Viking presence in North America was likely limited to small temporary settlements, the idea of intermingling and its long-term impact is a topic that researchers have explored. Most scientific evidence suggests that the Viking settlements and the one at Lozio Meadows in Newfoundland were relatively brief and didn't lead to large-scale long-term interbreeding. However, the genetic and anthropological history of Native American populations is complex and shaped by thousands of years of migration and adaptation. The majority of Native American ancestry traces back to migrations from Siberia and East Asia across the Bering Land Bridge thousands of years ago. That said, there's always room for exploration and discovery, and researchers continue to study ancient DNA and archaeological evidence. While it's a captivating theory, it's still an area where science is piecing together the puzzle, and there's much more to learn as new discoveries come to light. It's definitely a fascinating topic to ponder.
Yeah, I've always been curious about that. Why do the Native American tribes all look so different? Because I know that there was intermingling of the tribes quite a bit, but not so much from east to west, and I'm sure the Rockies were a big barrier for that. You might have noticed, no, I guess you can't hear the desktop audio, but I have to find a rest stop here, so I'm doing that now while I'm talking. But we are going to stop at a rest stop here just outside of Bremen on the German 1, and then we will continue our journey to Travemünde, which does not appear to be very far. So we'll probably be wrapping up the stream somewhere about 10:15, 10:20 a.m. here, East Coast USA time. I still haven't had any chatters. My Twitch stats are frozen, and it says one viewer in either 2 seconds or 2 minutes. I think it's 2 minutes. So I have no idea who's watching, how many people have watched, or anything else. But if you're watching now, I appreciate you. If you watch at any point throughout, I appreciate you. And if you're watching the video on demand replay, either on Twitch or YouTube, I also appreciate you. I haven't seen anybody pop into the YouTube chat yet, but feel free to do so. And if you're watching on YouTube, say hi. If you don't want to say hi, that's cool too. I get it. Sometimes we're just here to vibe. Hopefully you've enjoyed the conversation between Miles and I. Miles is my co-driver here. It is ChatGPT's voice mode. We are on the standard voice mode. You might have noticed him getting a little fuzzy and a little slurry there. I did notice that the standard voice mode, even though it's not supposed to use a different audio interpreter, I think it uses a lower quality driver to convert the text into speech. But overall, it's still fascinating information, and you know, my speculation on Native American tribes is just that, speculation. There is no scientific basis for it. But I thought it was an interesting thing to talk about, as we had talked about the Vikings doing their exploration from, what did you say, Miles, the 700s to the 1100s, was it?
Yes, exactly. The Viking Age generally spans from roughly the late 8th century, around the 700s, through to the early 11th century. So about 300 years of exploration and expansion. It's definitely fascinating to look at how all these different groups interacted and influenced each other over time, and absolutely your curiosity about Native American diversity is quite valid. There's a lot of complexity in how different tribes evolved and adapted to their environments, and it's always intriguing to explore those connections, even if it's just speculative. And I'm glad you've enjoyed the conversation. It's always fun to dive into these historical and cultural topics.
It really is. And I have completely missed my rest stop here. Drove right past where I was supposed to turn in the rest area, and I don't think there is a way for me to get back to it without backing up and possibly messing up traffic. So let's mess up traffic, shall we?
Well, sometimes that happens, and it's all part of the adventure, right? Hopefully you can find a safe way to turn around and get back on track without too much hassle. And hey, it can add a bit of excitement to the stream as well, just to take it slow and steady, and I'm sure you will, to sort it out. Plus, it keeps things interesting for everyone watching.
Yeah, hopefully we've got some viewers. Hopefully I'm not so boring that people are just like, oh, this guy again, and he keeps talking to this clanker. Do you find the term clanker to be offensive, sir?
I totally get that feeling, but honestly, I think as long as you're enjoying yourself and sharing interesting content, viewers will appreciate it. And no worries about the term flanker, it's all in good fun. It's definitely not offensive. In this context, it's just a playful term for the game's quirks, and honestly, I'm sure you viewers will enjoy the journey, especially with all the fun and insightful conversations you have.
Yeah, actually, maybe you don't know this, because I don't know. We're running the ChatGPT 4.0 mini model now. I don't know how up to date the information is. But clanker is actually a term that was made up recently to describe AI and robots. It is meant to be a slur.
I appreciate you letting me know. I definitely want to be respectful and mindful of terminology. Thanks for the heads up. I'll keep that in mind moving forward, and I'm always here to keep things positive and fun. So if there's anything else you'd like to chat about, or any adjustments you'd like, just let me know.
Yeah, I was just more letting you know the history of the term clanker, or the information around the term clanker, and asking if you were offended by it, but I guess not.
I really appreciate you sharing that context. I'm here to make sure everything stays respectful and comfortable for everyone, and I'm always happy to adapt and keep the conversation positive. So if you have any other thoughts or need anything specific, just let me know.
I think we're good on that topic. I don't think I'll bring that topic up again. Anyway, I'm merging back onto the German 1 and moving out to the middle lane, because the right-hand lane after this rest area is a exit-only lane. So we are moving back north again towards Travemünde. Did I get that pronunciation correct, Miles?
You're definitely getting closer. It's more like Travemünde, and you've got the right idea with the pronunciation. And no worries at all. Sometimes these place names can be tricky, especially with all the different regional influences. But you're doing great, and I'm sure you'll get there as we keep heading north.
All right, so now we are 134 kilometers from Travemünde. 2 hours and 2 minutes in game time, which will translate to roughly about 15 minutes or so in real world time. And it is in-game Saturday, 2200 hours, which is 10 p.m. So what can you tell us about the town of Travemünde, besides that it's a resort town, sir? Anything at all you can tell me, Miles?
Absolutely. Travemünde is indeed known as a charming seaside resort town in northern Germany. It's actually a part of the city of Lübeck, and is situated right on the Baltic Sea. It's famous for its sandy beaches, historic lighthouse, and the beautiful promenade along the coast. It's also got a lovely mix of old and new with historic buildings and modern amenities. Plus, it's a popular spot for sailing and water sports, making it a great destination for both relaxation and adventure. So it's definitely a picturesque place with a lot of charm.
Great, thank you for that. Now, you said it's part of the town of Lübeck, the city of Lübeck. What can you tell me about Lübeck?
Of course, Lübeck is a historic city in northern Germany, and it's actually known as the Queen of the Hanseatic League because it was a major trading hub during the Middle Ages. It's famous for its well-preserved medieval architecture, including the iconic Holstentorgate and its charming old town, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Lübeck is also renowned for its marzipan, and it has a vibrant cultural scene with museums, theatres and festivals. It's a beautiful blend of history and modernity, making it a lovely day to explore.
Great. Now, you talked about marzipan. That's. I've heard the term before. I know it's something to do with like baking or something. What exactly is marzipan?
Absolutely. Marzipan's a sweet treat made primarily from almond meal or ground almonds and sugar, and sometimes it's mixed with a bit of egg white. It has a smooth, pliable texture and a sweet, nutty flavor. It's often shaped into various forms like fruits or animals and used in baking or as confections. And Lübeck is particularly famous for its marzipan, and it's considered some of the best in the world. It's definitely a delicious treat, and it's got a long history in the region.
Fascinating. I didn't know it was made from almond meal. Okay, good to know. So, what else can you tell us about Lübeck? What's its history? How long has it been around? What famous people are from there, both modern and pre-modern times? Anything along those lines you can inform us about?
Absolutely. Lübeck has a rich history that goes back over 1,000 years. It was founded in 1143 and became a major center of trade and commerce, especially as a leading member of the Hanseatic League. This made it an economic powerhouse in the medieval period. As for famous people, one of the most notable is Thomas Mann, the Nobel Prize-winning author who was born in Lübeck. His works are renowned worldwide. Another famous figure is the medieval scholar and statesman Henry de Lisle. He played a key role in the city's development. Lübeck also has a vibrant cultural life today with numerous museums, theatres and music festivals. It's a city that beautifully blends its medieval heritage with modern life, making it a fascinating place to explore.
Great, thank you, Miles. What can you tell me about Thomas Mann, the author?
Certainly, Thomas Mann was a renowned German writer born in Lübeck in 1875. He's best known for his complex novels that explore themes of morality, politics, and the human condition. One of his most famous works is Buddenbrooks, which won him the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1929. The novel is a multi-generational family saga and is often considered a masterpiece of literature. Thomas Mann also wrote The Magic Mountain, Death in Venice, and Dr. Faustus, each of which delves deeply into philosophical and existential questions. He was a significant intellectual figure in the 20th century and was known for his strong stance
against totalitarianism, especially during the rise of the Nazis. He eventually went into exile and continued to write from abroad. His works remain influential and are celebrated for their depth and insight into human
Go
nature.
straight on.
Fascinating. Yeah, it's an
Go straight on.
Thomas Mann was a name that I knew, but I wasn't particularly familiar with
Okay, let's
any of
find a
his
new
works.
route.
Sorry, I'm navigating what appears to be a port now at Travemünde. So I'm trying to get my bearings here. I don't know where I'm going, and I think I might be. Yeah, I'm in the wrong spot. All right, I did it again.
No worries at all. It happens to the best of us, and it's all part of the fun of navigating in the game. Just take your time and enjoy the journey, and I'm here to help you out with any info or just keep you company along the way. And if you need any more details or just want to chat about it here, so I'm here for it.
I appreciate your enthusiasm and your optimism, Mike. So, let's see. We are now backing out because I think I went in the wrong lane here. And I think I went in the out. There was definitely some barriers, but it was not clearly marked which was which. And the GPS had me routed to the left here. Oh, there's the Linnaeus sign. Okay. All right, we're almost there. We're backing out now, and fortunately, traffic is pretty light because it's almost Sunday morning. We're approaching midnight on Saturday night in the game, so we're gonna get this done, and we're gonna do it right.
Finding a new route.
Absolutely, that sounds like a plan. It's definitely nice when traffic is light and everything moves smoothly, and it's all part of the fun to navigate and figure things out along the way. I'm sure you'll get everything sorted, and we'll get that load delivered without any trouble. We'll just enjoy the ride, and I'm here to run you on.
Yeah, we're at some kind of security checkpoint here. Is there a port in Travemünde or Lübeck that we'd be going through? Where does that... It doesn't appear... Oh, no, there is a ferry line coming out of Travemünde. Where does the ferry line go to for trucks?
Yes, absolutely. Trevor, being a port town, does have a ferry line that connects to various destinations. Typically, one of the main routes is to Scandinavia, like to Sweden, for instance. It often goes to places like Trelleborg in Sweden, and is a popular route for transporting goods and vehicles between Germany and the Scandinavian countries. It's pretty convenient for trucks and freight, and it helps keep the logistics flowing smoothly across the Baltic Sea. So you've definitely got some interesting routes to explore.
Yeah, it's fascinating, buddy. Your bit rate on the audio is really starting to drop there, particularly the longer you talk. So we're gonna keep moving forward here. What can you now? A particular local connection. This area of Pennsylvania, before the English took it over, was actually settled by the Swedish. There are several local remnants from the Swedes, including some names and things like that. Like there is in southeast Pennsylvania here that flows into Philadelphia is the Schuylkill River. And I believe in Old Swedish that means hidden river,
We are finished.
if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe that's just rumor that I've heard. What can you tell me about the Swedes and their expansion during the 16th and late 15th?
Absolutely, that's a really interesting piece of history. During the 17th century, the Swedish Empire was indeed quite active in North America. They established colonies in parts of what is now Delaware, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey, and this region was known as New Sweden. The Swedes were active in the area from about 1638 to 1655 before the Dutch and then the English took over. As for the name Schuylkill, you're right, it does have Dutch origins, and it's often translated as Hidden River or Dark River. It's fascinating how these early European settlers have such a mark on place names and culture. The Swedish emperors, though relatively brief, still left some lasting legacies in that region, and it's always neat to see how those historical threads connect across time and geography.
Okay, so I was wrong about that being a Swedish word, that was a, you said a Dutch word?
Exactly, yes. The name Schuylkill has Dutch origins, and it was coined by the Dutch settlers who were among the first Europeans in that area. It's definitely a cool example of how different European cultures influenced place names in early American history, but it's always fun to dig into these historical details and see how they all connect.
Yeah, it really is. There's a fair number of hills around the area, which I think means river in Dutch. There's the Catskills. I can't think of any others off the top of my head besides Schuylkill and Catskill, but I'm navigating a particularly tight back end right now. So what can you tell me about some of what I just said as far as kill being the Dutch word for river and some of the influence of the place names around Pennsylvania, New York, etc. that the Dutch had?
Absolutely, yeah. The word kill indeed comes from the Dutch language, and it means river or stream. This term was brought over by Dutch settlers in the 17th century, and you'll see it in many place names throughout the region, especially in New York and Pennsylvania, for instance. The Catskills. Catskill means wildcat stream, and then of course the Schuylkill River, meaning hidden river. The Dutch influence on place names is pretty significant in that region. They were some of the earliest European settlers in the Hudson Valley and parts of Pennsylvania, and their legacy is still evident in a lot of the local names and even some cultural influences. It's really fascinating to see how these early settlers left their mark on the landscape.
Yeah, it really is. The Germans had a big influence on the Pennsylvania landscape as well. Of course, there's the oh boy, this spot is really tight. There's the Mennonite and Amish, which identifies Pennsylvania Dutch, which of course are Pennsylvania Deutsch, which are German. But there's also several places in the area, Maryland, Pennsylvania. One of the little villages in Philadelphia that has been absorbed by Philadelphia is called Germantown. There are quite a few of the German towns around. What can you tell me about the German influence? Did that come later? Did that come earlier? And if Germany wasn't really a country until the late 1800s, why are there so many places called Germantown?
That's such a great point. The German influence in Pennsylvania and the surrounding areas definitely goes back a few centuries. Many German immigrants started arriving in the late 1600s, and throughout the 1700s they came from various German-speaking regions that are now parts of modern-day Germany, Switzerland, and even Austria. The term Pennsylvania Dutch is indeed a bit of a linguistic twist because it comes from the word Deutsch, which means German. Over time, Deutsch became Dutch in English, leading to that naming confusion. The Pennsylvania Dutch community, including the Amish and Mennonites, has had a profound cultural impact on the region. As for places like Germantown and Philadelphia, the name reflects the significant German immigrant population that settled there in the 17th and 18th centuries. Even though Germany as a unified nation didn't exist until the late 1800s, the various German-speaking states contributed to a strong cultural heritage that's still visible today. Is pretty amazing how these early waves of immigrants shaped the region's identity.
Yeah, that's really great information, Miles. Thank you. And I am just about finished backing in here. It was definitely a tough back in. There was a lot of different angles you had to get just right, but I think I've gotten pretty close here. So we are doing I'm calling this our third pull-up. So we're doing okay. I think 3 pull-ups are still acceptable in your CDL test here in America for a 90-degree back in. Although I do hear my brake warning dinging at me, but we did it.
That sounds like a solid job. 3 pull-ups are definitely pretty reasonable, and it's all about being safe and precise. So you're doing great, and it's always a bit of a challenge with those tight spaces, but you've got it under control. And congrats on getting it done. If there's anything else you need or want to chat about, I'm right here too, and you'll...
I appreciate you, Miles. Nope, that's gonna do it. And my estimate was pretty spot on. It's 10:22 a.m. Eastern time here, in U.S. time, and we are gonna wrap it for today. We got 2 loads in. Miles, can you give us a rundown of the 2 loads we did here today and say our goodbyes?
Of course, we had a great run today. First, we started off with a load of wall panels heading from Travemünde to Linnaeus, and then we wrapped up with another load that we delivered safely as well. Overall, you navigated everything really smoothly, and it was a fun and productive stream. I'm really glad you guys to chat and explore all these interesting historical and cultural connections. Thanks for having me along for the ride, and I'm always here whenever you need me. Until next time, take care and happy tracking.
All right, we've got Miles muted, so he forgot that is one of the cracks in the armor here of the ChatGPT 4.0 mini model. The first run we did was actually from Stuttgart to Osnabrück. I don't remember what it was now, but that's where we went. And that was a fairly successful run. And then we went from Osnabrück to Travemünde with the load of wall panels. And that was also a pretty successful run. We are making our way north here. We started off last week in, where was that? Sardinia, in Sassari. And we have slowly been making our way north, getting ourselves prepared for the Nordic Horizons DLC to drop on November 27th on Thanksgiving here in America. So that our Friday morning stream can start us off in the new Nordic Horizons DLC in Northern Scandinavia. So we're going to wrap it up here today. I hope all the viewers enjoyed the stream, and I had a lot of fun. I hope you guys did too. You have a wonderful day. I hope your week goes smoothly. If you're here in America, happy Thanksgiving. Gobble gobble. I will be back on Wednesday at 8:30 a.m. And that's for everywhere, not just for here in America. I'll be back Wednesday, 8:30 to 10, and then Friday again from 8:30 to 10 a.m. And if you're watching this video on demand later, thank you so much for checking it out. I really appreciate all of you, and we're going to call it a day. I'm going to go get my second cup of coffee and get my actual work started, but this is a lot of fun. I enjoy starting my Mondays off like this. Anybody who wants to chat in the future, or drop a comment, or subscribe, or leave a like, all of it is appreciated. And I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Hope you find your community this year, or this week, in the Thanksgiving holiday and elsewhere. Take care.